Right. Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Product Intelligence Sync on the 14th of March. Today we're going to start with something from Piotr. He was not on the call. So just for everyone who doesn't know yet, he's on a prolonged vacation now. He's going to be back on April 19th and he's in Japan. So hopefully we're going to see some nice pictures from the cherry blossoms in Japan.
Woohoo for Piotr, he finally made it there. I remember he planned the whole trip before COVID hit, so woohoo for him.
Yeah, I think that was a long time coming.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that it worked out for him in the end. Yeah, so he opened up I think probably most of you saw that he opened up an issue for holiday coverage. There were 2 issues in there. I think both of them have already been taken up. So yeah, if there's anything where Piotr after all was included or something and you don't know kind of should you take that over or not or something like that, then please just let me know, because we definitely don't want to have things lying around for the next month. So ideally whatever he did until now is kind of taken over by someone, but at least so far it seems like that's the case. Nikolai, now it's on to you.
Okay, awesome. I wanted kindly to ask for feedback as a part of the unified event tracking proposal. With Jonas, we are working on creating new schemas for the event definition and the metric definition. And around the event definition, there are 2 competing languages to define, that could be used to define event or create event definition. One would be JSON schema and the other would be YAML. The pros for the JSON schema is that it can be used to also validate the events within the snowplow. So we're kind of getting 2 out of the price for 1, but because we get the documentation and we also get the validation of the events, and it also helps us to enforce people to use the event definitions as we want them to be used. But at least this may be my personal view, the YAML are more readable and more user-friendly than the JSON schemas. But that could be only me, and we kindly ask Tim for feedback. What is your take before we be able to create this proposal documentation, prototype documentation for this proposal that can be then shared more widely to gather feedback? We would like to get this proposal finished in this milestone, so there's a time frame for feedback. But still, if anyone has any thoughts or opinions, please do chime in.
Jonas, I think you had the first comment.
Yeah, so my comment was so I think first of all we should make sure we spend some effort on making good generators. I think when we evaluate these 2 formats, we should assume that people won't be copying a template and changing a bunch of fields of a bunch of values. That's at least how I think about it. So I think if you think about it like that, it's more, I guess, more about like picking the storage format and the format that people will, or that we will review when people add a new event. I also saw that, yeah. So I think I think we can go either way. I think if we pick YAML, we can also convert to JSON schema as Bastis proposed. I think that's a good idea. I'm a little worried, not super worried, but a little worried that we would basically have to define a big part of the schema again. But like as soon as you start adding, for example, if you want to start adding types to YAML, it gets a little like then it kind of feels maybe we should have picked another format. Yeah. I also just kind of hate reading JSON schema, so I'm leaning a little bit. I'm actually leaning, after I wrote my comment, I'm leaning a little bit more the other way. But yeah.
Mikla, do you want to voice your comment around JSON schema and metadata?
I know who the question was coming from, but I did the POC on like building the event definition of the JSON schema, just to make sure, because I have the same concern, like, can we define metadata in correct way? And the answer is yes, we can, because JSON schema ignores keywords that are like, the JSON schema still has to be a JSON, so it has to follow JSON syntax, but you can add any kind of key value pairs, key object pairs, as you would add to the JSON. If they are not recognized to be JSON schema keywords, they are just simply ignored when validating the schema. So I created the sample event definition and even use it to validate the event sent to the Snowplow micro with the product category and attributes that contains the GitLab related metadata. The only risk of doing that is that JSON schema may introduce the same. So you may get into the conflict with the newer version of the JSON schema. So for example, if you define some very generic metadata, like, I don't know, array or whatever, it may be that the new version of the JSON schema, this term would become a keyword, and then you will have the conflict. But if you prefix it, like, I believe if you prefix it every metadata with like GitLab _ prefix, there is very, very low chance that the JSON schema will actually introduce keyword that starts with GitLab prefix. So we should be fine doing so. I tried to the other way around, because JSON schema advised to create your own dialect for the JSON schemas if you want to have the dedicated meta keywords, but it's not accepted by the Snowplow to use dialects with the JSON schema. But still, the version with just adding the non-actionable attributes is simpler, and Snowplow doesn't really have any issue with that. So that should be fine.
Cool, thanks. So I just wanted to voice from like my opinion there is that where I'm mainly coming from is that I am very much in the favor of this validation that's happening through Snowplow. My assumption is also that the data team and so on would be happy about having more validation there and less risk of having bad data in or bad events in some kind of table, but kind of making sure that events always like have the correct schema and have the correct properties and so on, and that's all built in with Snowplow. And although we can probably build some of this also as kind of static analysis and kind of statically tell people like, okay, your event is missing a property or something, the safest way seems to be using something like Snowplow does, and it's already built in, and we don't have to build it ourselves, kind of the validation. So that's where I'm coming from. I can see the advantage of having an easier time reading YAML. Thinking about it, what I'm kind of wondering about is if it wouldn't be worth it to just start with JSON schema, and then, if necessary, if we discover along the way that people have a hard time reading it, or that they want to actually kind of, that we realize that this is an actual problem for people to kind of work with JSON schema, even though we build good generators and so on. In that case, it feels like we could still build like a or try to build at least some kind of YAML format on top that then gets translated into the JSON schema, and just have a code mod run through the whole thing and turn the JSON schemas into YAMLs. It feels to me like it's easier to do it that way than to come up with a YAML file, like a YAML format right now, kind of in advance, that supports this. Like that would allow us to kind of, I don't know, can generate the JSON schema from it that then Snowplow can work with. Because again, at least my opinion is, from all that we know, and with building a scalable event system at a company like GitLab, it feels to me like enforcing people to put a YAML or some kind of definition there in whatever format it is that events actually have to comply to would be really helpful. Also, for example, for people like in this case, I'm thinking about Miles, who currently is looking at, okay, what properties get sent with certain events and so on. It would be easy to kind of just have to look at a file and actually be able to trust this file, that in the sense that, okay, if it says in there that the event is always going to come through with this or that property, then it's actually only going to come through with that in the warehouse, and I'm never going to be surprised about some other property coming through or a required property not being there.
So I definitely like the iterative idea that you showed, Basti, that we can always fall back to YAML if needed. Because with YAML, we also like to build a translation layer, so we kind of starting the bottom up or in reverse direction. So we gotta start with the format that you would like to optionally translate to, and if the translation is here, then we're gonna add the translation on top of it. This is really neat take, and I'm supportive of it.
I have one question, Mikola, just thinking loudly from data perspective, how or this will reflect anyhow in files we import for Snowplow. I mean, if you introduce this YAML file, will this contain in that file and we should upload it in Snowflake, or this will not be considered as a part of import, if you know what I mean? Will something change in data we get from you, from Snowplow?
So it may be that the change would be that, because right now we have kind of very standardized structure of the events. So
exactly,
action, category, action label, and whatnot. And this will open up people to be more flexible. Like we could still possibly like enforce this category level action plus context, but it may be unnecessary complexity on people like to maintain this legacy format, and rather people define the structures for each of these events with the event definition. So some event may have, I don't know, the event, so probably would require some common attributes like event name, because we need the event name.
Yeah, something mandatory plus something optional can be more complex, but for sure.
And each of those events would have the definition. So right now there's this metric definition file to use some kind of thing that we all know and can refer to. So right now for the service ping, you have the metric definition.
Yes.
And then you can see like what data would come in and under which, like the key path, so how it's located within the payload object, JSON object.
Yep.
And kind of similar thing would happen for the events, Snowplow events. Every event would have their definition, like the metric, which would tell what fields are within the event, what data types can be expected within those fields, and the event name. And those event definitions per se probably doesn't really need to be important from product interest perspective to the data warehouse.
Yes.
But you may want to import them just to use them as, okay, automatically turn them into the tables or whatnot, because they would be out like the program readable, because they are already gonna be used by the Snowplow, as especially if you go with the JSON schema. They need to be computer readable and translatable to the JSON structure or the object structure. So probably I could imagine that you could use them to also create automatically the tables.
Yes, based on this data of events, right? Like based on your definition. But as of now, there is no concern like something will break up or we need some technical changed in order to be able to digest the data. So this is more like amendment on the existing set of data, right? Something additional.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
think,
understand? I just want to clarify for myself and from data perspective, if you implement this feature, or how you call it, despite the format, we can still continue ingest our data without any harm, not change the need on our side for now. Just an option, we can do something extra, right?
I think in general the idea is so we have this whole epic around kind of unifying the events, but the idea is that we will do this iteratively and still and not break anything existing.
Okay.
So that's them. So we don't expect anything because we already have, I don't know actually no, snowplow events we don't know because they are not all kind of in like, not all of them have a YAML file associated, but for example Redis HL, I think we have more than 1,000 different events, and so we cannot just, I don't know, change them overnight anyway. So we're always going to support the old way, and then we're going to add additional things on top. There might be things coming out of this where to support new functionality and so on, it might be necessary to, I don't know, don't know the kind of downstream ingestion too much in detail, but I think most of it, seen from now, I don't foresee any big changes happening there anytime soon.
That is what I need to know. Actually, I will go through this documentation what Nikolai shared with us just to have the full overview and don't want to waste too much of your time, so we can move on. I'm just thinking, okay, is there anything I should be concerned upfront? But still, yeah, I'm informed of that. Thanks for this info.
One thing I just remembered I would also like to mention as kind of not necessarily advantage of JSON schema, but just a something I feel like we ideally have built in the new format when we kind of create this new format for events is the versioning of events, because that's also something that we discovered. So I think that's probably Nikolai, Michał, and so on. You all know these kinds of discussions around, I want to change this thing around an event, and then we always have to point the people towards, hey, no, you cannot change, you have to create a new event. And how do you name that then? And because someone, I don't know, forgot to add a property somewhere, or they just want to change something. And I think that's also something that we had a few discussions around anyway, and it feels like if we would get this automatically to have some kind of versioning, and that's actually built into JSON schema. So if you create an event and then at some point you want to add a new property, you would have to create like a new version of the JSON schema, increase the actual version. The old version would still be there. The old event would theoretically still be valid. So if someone, like, for some reason, an older version of GitLab would still send this event, that's still a valid event. And you have then version 1 and version 1.1 or something of the same event, which I think is quite nice to support and would make a lot more sense to our users than the current thing of, okay, you have to completely create a new metric as soon as you want to change anything. Because then you also lose the link between what was before and what you have now. If you just increase the version, it's clear kind of, okay, this was there previously, and now we're counting the same thing like slightly differently.
Yeah, I think the versioning. So with the snowplow events, the versioning wasn't that much of a problem. We kind of was really oblivious what's happening with the snowplow, like was fire and forget, and we don't have that much standardization, to be honest. But it definitely was the case for the Redis based events that people were unable to change anything there. And I think that is a good thing to consider it right now. So both me and Jonas, I guess we should include this. So in event definition, if we go with the JSON schema, it's out of the box, but it may be required to also include this with the metric definition, because then we not only need to point to which event, but also which version of the event that metric is using, because it may be that, for example, there is some attribute or the context attribute missing in this version of the event. So we need to keep both event and the version aligned.
All right, then I think Radovan, you also wanted to give a short update what you're working on.
Yeah, not especially. I would say mainly I'm focused or busy with this large updates for snowplow geocoding data, geocode longitude, latitude, and I found a good option to do that in Snowflake. Even tables are large. The second thing, I will take action point for this investigation, drop in import service ping. Miles did some investigation in prep and prod layer. I need to just to discover why data or is data is coming late or not. So we'll keep it posted today about this problem. General story or general problem, what I notified from Nikolai is about number of data dropped for some particular date from end of February, right, Nikolai?
Yeah, so since almost the end of February, it was the Nikos discovery that just a number of payloads has dropped down. And it seems that these reports appear in the Snowflake, but kind of don't get propagated from the source or raw layers to the prod layers, which we used to fire the alert because we were wakened by the alert that the payload is dropped, and then that started the investigation. There is the other possibility, but based on the fact that we right now seems to see the missing reports in the raw layer, it's more likely to be some kind of downstream issue.
Yes, exactly. I will do double check what Miles said here. It's a problem with later IV data. Data is there, but we have incremental model pick up only the latest change. So this will stay there forever until we force, let's say, full refresh. Probably will do that. And as I said, I will keep you informed. Just need to do double check. If data is laying down in raw layer, that's the only problem. If you do a full refresh, you're safe.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think so. From what Nico posted, it's mostly the 4th to the 6th of March that are completely missing. For other dates, it's a smaller diff, so that might just be deduplication or something like that. So I think it feels like out of some reason, maybe because of the whole switch with the version app and so on, these are missing mainly. So it's the whole 5th of March and partially the 4th and the 6th that were missing from being propagated.
That's true, because I remember one more thing. Before I was out of the office last week, I notified when we switch version ping, I changed the types and how data is loaded, and also see some errors for, I don't know, version ping or license, whatever. And maybe that can be the catch, something, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there is some glitch there, and after a few days, everything is coming normally, but data is coming late. So I will take care of that and let you know without it. And probably full refresh will sort out things, and you will see the data.
Cool, nice, awesome. Yeah, I have just one more small update. We had a lively discussion also back and forth around the removal of this usage data.rb file and getting rid of it and how we're going to do that. And I just wanted to kind of let everyone know that Nico is going to take over kind of the coordination of this. He volunteered. And so from this point on, he's going to kind of try to create issues or kind of coordinate however he sees fit, that we can get rid of the all the, I think it's both files combined, it's like more than 1,000 lines. The only thing I might still do is just for fun, create like a graph of how many lines we have, and then we can see the lines hopefully slowly go down and have this as an additional motivation of getting rid of those files. I still need to check how the best I can do that, if I can actually create some kind of graph in Sisense or something to post this every time we have a sync and increase the motivation of really getting rid of this file before we do anything new. All right, I think that's it, and we're on time. Or does anyone have anything else they want to mention? No, then yeah, have a nice day, everyone, or a nice evening in case of Ankit, and see you around.
Bye. Bye, folks.
Bye, everyone. Bye.